Hi everyone, welcome to Who Said What with your hosts Hiba and Nira. We're two sisters in our 40s with lots of stories to share. Having lived across Egypt, the US, Saudi, Kuwait, Dubai, and Europe, we share a unique mix of cultural insights and fresh perspectives. In each episode, we dive into the unfiltered sides of entrepreneurship, motherhood, relationships, and the crazy dynamics of family life. Well, actually, of our crazy family life. Ever wonder how cultures shape our ideas of success, love, and happiness? And why some topics are completely taboo in one country, yet casual conversation in another? Well, we're here to spill the tea, no sugarcoating, just real talk and a lot of laughs. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into another episode of Who Said What. Happy New Year, everyone. We're kicking off 2025 with a guest who's here to help you stick to those fitness resolutions. Mohamed Eid, engineer turned fitness guru, owner of one of Egypt's top gyms, Elevate, and a new dad, joins us to talk about building a healthier, injury-free you. From his journey into fitness to insights on staying fit as you age, he shares smart advice for making meaningful progress, whether you're hitting the gym for the first time or leveling up your routine. Tune in for some motivation and practical tips to start your year strong. Okay, so we have Mohamed Eid with us today, owner of Elevate Gym. And I had done a very good intro before, but anyways, yes, you are in one of the people that is in the best shape of their lives. So on that note, I wanted to know what made you go from being an engineer to becoming a gym owner and like...
Yeah.
He's going to tell us.
I was actually an electronics and communications engineer.
Okay.
I've always been a nerd. I graduated on top of my class. I was like 8th or something on a class of 160 students.
Wow.
I graduated with, not that the GPA matters or anything, but I graduated with 3.73 GPA.
Wow.
With high stars. Yeah. I loved engineering. I actually waited for my job at one of the telecom companies in Egypt for about, let's say, 8 months to get into that job, which is basically a radio planning engineer. What's a radio planning engineer? An engineer that technically plans where the network, where the antennas should be directed to cover which part in terms of network.
Wow.
Also, in malls and the big malls, you basically don't have any network inside from the outside network. There is a network that's within, and I played part in that as a telecom engineer.
So how long were you doing that?
I did that for like 2 years. Meanwhile, I started coaching soccer for kids with my best friend at, can I say the name?
Yeah.
BFIS. Okay. That was 2015, 9 years ago. I did that. I used to go to my corporate job, finish about at 5 or 6 p.m. and then I would go coach kids soccer. I did that for about 4 months. And then I was always training on the side, like physically training. I go to the gym every day. I go to the gym before I go to work. And I kept doing that until I found passion for becoming actually a coach. Like a lot of people would join my training sessions and tell me, you're actually very good at like giving cues and keeping me motivating and why don't you like become a coach? And back then it was very easy. All you had to do was a weekend certificate. That's it.
That's true.
Yeah. Still, sadly enough, it's still kind of the same till today. Depends on where you work, but the entry barrier to this job is kind of easy. And then 2 years later, into being a part-time coach and a part-time engineer, not a full-time engineer, I used to go to Otome Heights, coach a morning session, go to downtown to my corporate job from 9 to 5, and then go back again to Otome Heights, coach from 6 to 9 p.m. And then I'll go home, and I kept doing that for almost like 2 or 3 years before it actually hit me that I'm never going to be an achiever in any of both jobs. I'm just going to be a doer. at both. So I had to make the choice. The choice, yeah. Surprisingly enough, my mother, who's like now 75, not really knowing what I was doing as a coach, felt like me leaving my corporate job was actually a good decision. She encouraged me to do that, which was weird in this way.
Yeah, because all parents want their kids to be an engineer.
Yeah,
right.
And by the way,
Or a doctor.
yeah, or a doctor, exactly. For جزء من حياتي, I think when I was 17 or 16, yeah, she made me stop playing soccer to actually study for engineer, to become an engineer. And then 6 years later, she was okay with me. Okay, you got the degree, you worked as an engineer, do whatever you want.
Okay.
This is how it started. And then 4 years into that, into being a full-time coach.
At BeFit?
Yeah. I was basically as if I'm the managing partner of one of the locations, which was Paul Mintz back then. I felt that I wanted to do something a little bit different than what we were doing back then, which is I wanted to cater to those who are not really interested in breaking personal training records, but mostly interested in navigating the stairs at their own when they're 60 and 70. And I wanted the personal training service to be for those who have real problems that need someone to solve, and not just because they want someone to hold them accountable for the session, or because they don't like group sessions, so that's why they're doing personal training. I wanted the personal training service to be kind of catering to those who want to lose weight but have a shoulder injury, who want to gain muscles but have a knee injury. Every time they train, their knee starts hurting again. Or those who want to go for that, those who don't want to worry about back pain every time bending over to carry their kids. This is basically what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I noticed that because when I came to see you, because I had the injury in my shoulder, remember? And when I came to see you, you did something that I've never experienced before going into a gym and working out, is that you did this assessment that like tested everything, like my joint motion, range of motion, all of that, which is really important. I think in Egypt, a lot of trainers or coaches, they don't really do that. They just push you, and then they don't realize after that you get injuries, and they don't, you know what I mean? I think here it's like this, the same thing, I think, by the way, with a lot of these classes that are high intense, they're very high intensity, that you can go do them, but you're very prone to injury, especially, like you're saying, as you kind of age. I mean, we feel it a little bit more. So,
Well, no, actually, because I've been working out since 2000, consistently. I don't stop. So 25 years, going on 25 years. But so I remember I did the certification, that gigantic book, the SIAC, the ISSA. I did it. And
That's how I started, actually.
I think that's how everybody starts. And I this book is huge, and there are quizzes after every chapter, and then the final is like.
And then there's the workbook where you actually answer the questions.
And it was I did everything online, and I remember looking at my trainer Ahmed, and I said, "Aizafha, how do these idiots pass this test?" It was in English, and it was very hard. And I told him, I was like, and I said, no, there's no way I feel.
I'm bringing everybody down with me. I am bringing every single person down with me.
Gym did not know how to speak a word of English, and this is all in English, online. He's like, ala fikra. Most of these trainers have somebody else take the exam for them. They get certified.
Bravo, Ali.
But it's really, and I pass. I think I got 85%. But I was panicking that I flunked this test because it was not easy at all. So most of these trainers.
Did you pass it in the end?
Oh no, I passed. I got an 85. But most of the trainers in Egypt haven't studied that basic.
Let's say, okay. We want to get back to like when you decided to open the gym, but your assessment that you do, how did you get to that assessment? Did you do it?
I basically learned that from a chiropractor who teaches.
In Egypt?
No,
Okay.
it's online. He's a Canadian. He also happens to be the strength and conditioning or the movement specialist of all NASA astronauts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his name is Andrea Spina. He's very famous. Everyone can look him up. He's the one who actually certifies people to become movement and mobility specialists. So I came, I took his course, and then it was a game changer for me. I thought everyone on the team should go through the same education, and this is how we came about the joint assessment. I also have a business coach who, working on the business, he said, if you're trying to cater to those who no one caters to, which is basically, because if you think about it, who's doing fitness group sessions? Everyone who can do the group session as prescribed. Probably someone who's fit. Probably someone who's already training. But not someone who wants to train but is afraid of getting injured, or someone who wants to get back, never started training before, because there are a lot of people that have never been into sports. So I wanted, so he said, listen, one of the things that you should actually do is offer the assessment for free. So I was like, why? That actually takes 30 to 45 minutes from the coach. He said, because if your goal is to be the number one place where people go to for getting out of pain, then you need to set up yourself or your reputation around making sure you never get anyone injured. So you want to know the prerequisites of every movement and assess people accordingly. So the assessment is very simple. Yet obviously it requires an extensive knowledge about function and anatomy, about physiology, how the body moves, which is the science of basically how the body moves. So every joint does a certain number of movements. So for example, your shoulder does 6 movements, your hip does 6 movements, your knee, people think the knee only flexes and extends, but it actually flexes and extends. It also rotates out and rotates in. So instead of just training people for person training, you do the assessment to make sure that everyone has the prerequisite, and then find where the deficits are, and then accordingly train those deficits to make sure they never get back in pain.
So has it been successful?
Yeah, it's been very, very successful, to the point that actually a sports med, one of the best sports med doctors in Africa, is doing personal training. It was one of our coaches now. Basically came to us, said, you know what? You're the only place in fitness where I've never ever had a single client come to my office with an injury from. And that to us is like a quality C.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Definitely. And so you have this assessment for every single person who comes in?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we basically offer the assessment for free for anyone who's engaging with our business. They do the assessment, they get a recommendation. At the end of the day, it's their decision. You get a recommendation of whether group sessions are good for you, or if group sessions are not good for you, if you should be doing personal training, if you're interested in training at your own convenience of time and location. Probably you're going to be doing a remote coaching service where the coach prescribes the workout for the client. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And to be able to run the business the way we do, we stopped hiring coaches. As you just said, most people in the market, because there's no entry barrier to it, there's no any kind of law governing it.
Yeah.
They basically get a weekend certificate and then they start coaching. So to make sure that this caliber never goes through Elevate and starts offering our services to clients, we made our own education program, which is
Okay.
a year-long program with 9 hours a week with me or with Ali Tawin, who happens to be the chief technical of Elevate. He's probably one of the only coach with strength and conditioning, master's in strength and conditioning degree from Edinburgh. He didn't take it online. He had to travel to Edinburgh, working with Elevate remotely, and then he came back to teach with us, which they learn basically anatomy, kinesiology, biomechanics, injuries and injury prevention. What else?
So they do rigorous training in-house,
Yeah,
basically.
there's an exam every month. And for the coaches, the current coaches, we're recently launching a new kind of like a system to ensure that coaches who went through our education continue professional development. So we basically send out the most recent research about Achilles injuries, for example, and we have them read the research. And beginning of every month, there's an exam for everyone on the team.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It takes a lot of work from you. But
It is a lot of work.
now you have 2 locations. How many coaches do you have in total?
26, 27.
Oh wow. Okay.
27, I think.
Okay. And but you just opened the Tagamal one, right?
Yeah.
More recently.
In March.
He opened
Last March.
last Ramadan.
Oh wow. Okay.
Ramadan, exactly.
Ramadan, right?
Yeah. It's almost a year now.
How I know that and you don't know that, Heba?
I'm sure I do know it's in my memory, but I forgot.
6 weeks later, I traveled to Canada to. My wife was giving birth.
That's right.
Yeah, 6 weeks later.
So your daughter is now a year old?
She's
Almost?
8 months and 15 days.
Oh my.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, how is that? How is fatherhood?
I can't complain. It's all about the mother, honestly. Farah is doing most of the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
Yeah. However, I really, really enjoy it a lot. I like to be involved. I was very, very young when my sister.
Very young.
I know. I mean, when my father, my siblings, my sisters are older than me by around 20 years, 18 years.
Yes, I know one of his sisters.
Yes, I know.
Sister who Ines is, I think,
Ines,
older
yeah.
than me.
Yeah.
I think Ines is older than me.
Yeah.
She's a year or two older than me.
Yeah. So I didn't really get to see how my father was with them.
Yeah.
However, I've been reading a lot, and one of the books I actually read is Raising Mentally Strong Kids, written by a guy called Daniel Amen.
Yes. He has a lot of good books about the brain and how to develop.
Yeah, and is specifically talking most of the time in the book about how Duran's confidence starts with her dad. So I'm trying as much as I can to be involved with the bedtime routine of Fadila. So I try as much as I can to finish work by 6:30, 7 p.m. max to get back home before she sleeps and do the sleep routine like for 3 out of the 7 days of the week. Yeah, it was very hard in the beginning, training, managing the business. The first 3 or 4 months, I was only training like once or twice a week. Okay, it was, I can't say I was sleep deprived because then I would be robbing
Robbing her,
yeah,
stealing her thunder.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was very challenging in the beginning. Now it's a little bit easier because we're doing sleep training. So she sleeps through the night.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, by the way. The sleep thing makes a huge difference.
For Farah, for my wife, and also for the baby.
Yeah.
She wakes up in a very good mood.
Yeah.
Probably because she sleeps like 7-8 hours. What about?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
It's so important for the brain development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super important that they sleep properly and that they have a routine.
So Inta,
Not that I have any kids, thank God,
but as she observes from afar. But yeah, so Inta, let's say, how many hours do you work at the gym then for you? Like, did you work much longer and now you've made it a point, like you said, you make it a point now to be back at bedtime?
I try as much as I can. Yeah, of course. Like before having Fadila, I would be there for 12, 14 hours. Maybe 2 hours of those would be me training, and 10 hours I would be actually working, either between coaching group sessions, running assessments, teaching the team. I actually tutor like every Monday and Wednesday. I tutor even the coaches that we onboard from other companies. We don't. We make sure that they go through the same education process of our own coaches. So that I'm tutoring like 6 hours a week. I teach kinesiology and program design, how to actually design a program for someone and how to actually coach the human being and not just prescribe a certain number of exercises for them. Yeah. Now most of my day is spent on strategic work rather than just coaching sessions. I love coaching group sessions.
You do? What is your favorite part of the business?
Coaching group sessions.
And what is your least favorite?
Finance.
Yeah. I wouldn't say finance because obviously I'm an engineer. I love
Engineer
numbers.
loves that.
I love numbers and I love metrics. I love measuring things. No, my least favorite part would be management. I obviously every day I wake up trying to.
But you seem so good at that.
I'm still a work in progress. I'd like to think of myself as a work in progress when it comes to managing people. This was definitely my weakest point. I've done a lot of work في الحتة دي. بس دلوقتي yeah, I'm trying as much as I can not to shy away from tough conversations in business, but that's my weakest point. My strength point is running a group class, running a group session.
Yeah, you're brilliant at it, by the way.
I love
You're
it.
so good at it.
I love it. I'm very passionate about it. It بيبان عليا وانا I'm coaching a group session. I love coaching giving everyone literally the best hour of their day. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
And this is actually how it all started.
Yeah. No, you're very good at it. Deb, since we're coming up to Ramadan, what is your recommendation for people? Like how to work out, how to stay fit during Ramadan, how to not gain weight, because Ramadan can be challenging.
Easy, don't stuff your face.
Yeah, okay, easier said than done.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Do you have any advice?
Okay, yeah, of course I do have advice when it comes to Ramadan. Something you should know about me. People say I'm an extremist when it comes to sugar. I'm not. I actually have a very...
In that you don't consume sugar at all?
I have a crazy sweet tooth.
Okay, ooh.
I can...
You like my healthy cake?
Yeah. Yeah,
of course.
I have sweet tooth. I'm very bad at consuming sugar. If I do it once, ممكن ما أقفش يعني ممكن أفضل I can literally drink مثلا نص لتر شوكولاتة عادي مش هيحصل لي أي حاجة وأنا صغير.
Are you one of those people that eats a lot and doesn't gain weight? Do you have a
Well, obviously.
Yeah, it's
so annoying. That's so annoying.
We hate you people.
Allah, good for you. Not gonna win.
Yeah. I actually have a reason for it's not just genetics. Like part جزء من الموضوع ده بيدepend بدرجة كبيرة قوي على having muscles. The more muscles you have, basically muscles act as a sponge for glucose.
Yeah.
The more muscles you have, the more glucose you can dispose, the less the need for your pancreas to release insulin to raise the glucose levels in your bloodstream. So, yeah, back to Ramadan. So that any advice I give, it's not because I'm an extremist, but because I'm someone who عنده sweet tooth مرعبة وفي نفس الوقت I manage myself through Ramadan. Try as much as you can to schedule your sugar intake throughout the week. So that's one. Try to avoid calories in the form of drinks as much as you can, like soups.
What are those things called?
قمر الدين.
قمر الدين والحاجات دي that are like so high in sugar.
They're so high in sugar, they don't leave you full. It's calories in the form of drinks.
So how would you break your fast to be healthy?
So why? What if you're?
Because it's mostly made of fat. It's also high in calorie.
It doesn't satiate you
exactly
as much.
Do you know what actually brings you satiation? Fibers, water, and weight. So, for example, cucumbers. They're full of water. They're heavy. And they're also very full of fibers. Same thing with... When you compare that to a bag of chips, it's lightweight. Doesn't include any fibers. Doesn't include any water. That's why it never leaves you full. Plus, obviously, the more the content of protein and fats in anything that you're eating, the more satiating it is. Why? Because it takes longer time to digest. Your body releases enzymes that tells your brain we're good at the time until we finish the task at hand, which is digesting the food that came in. And that usually happens with protein and fats mostly, and not carbs. My advice for Ramadan would be avoid eating naked carbs. I call it naked carbs.
What are naked carbs? That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I want naked carbs.
Naked carbs, anything that is in the form of carbs without anything to balance it out in terms of...
Okay, I know what you mean.
So instead of having an apple, have an apple with and dip it in peanut butter.
Yes, okay, I know what you mean.
Instead of having just dates, try dipping it in peanut butter or better, in tahini. Tahini.
I started this actually.
I love it.
So how like, let's give like a live example of like, I'm going to break my fast. I want to be healthy in Ramadan. I want to try to lose weight and not gain weight. What should I eat at Fatar? When should I train?
Okay.
Should it be before Fatar? Apparently, like, so you're intermittent fasting. Apparently that's like the best time, I heard. Or is it right after? Tell it, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good questions. Okay. This is usually the most frequently asked questions when it comes to Ramadan and taking care of your health, because you're obviously fasting. First of all, fasting is great. Prolonged durations of fasting is actually good for men, not so good for women, apparently. And we'll get to that later. But when it comes to Ramadan, depends. If you're someone who's already into training, if you're someone who's already used to exerting physical effort, you do some sort of either cardio training or strength training 2 or 3 times a week. It's fine if you want to train قبل الفطار or pre-iftar. I have a take on this. If someone لو حتى عمره في حياته ما اتمرن ومش بيتمرن بس they're motivated في رمضان ان هم يتمرنوا, I don't advise ان هم يتمرنوا قبل الفطار علشان هم بقى لهم فترة طويلة قوي جسمهم ما فيهمش اي nutrients. Their blood viscosity is actually different. I don't really recommend ان heart rate بتاعهم كمان يعلى قوي, taking into consideration ان their blood viscosity is not the same as with لما يكون فيها مية واكل.
They're dehydrated. No,
Yeah,
stuff.
it can easily get dehydrated. So لو حد بيتمرن, let's break it down into حد اصلا بيتمرن او حد لا مش بيتمرن. Okay, if we say someone who's already training, it's fine ان هو يتمرن قبل الفطار, break their fast. We'll talk about that. ايه اللي المفروض اكله على الفطار. Anything that coats that's the basically اكنها تعمل lining للأمعاء او للintestines او for your gut system. A salad. Start off with a salad, obviously water in the beginning, and then a salad, and then start with protein, because the more protein you eat, the less likely you are to stuff your face with food. It's true. Because obviously it keeps you full for longer. And then I would have some sort of carbs with that protein. When it comes to carbs, I try as much as I can to avoid الرز المعمر والمحشي والورق العنب,
Yes.
all of that. And I try as much as I can to keep it towards baked potatoes. Most of Ramadan, other than العزايم وكده, baked potatoes, sweet potatoes. I love rice. Rice is actually, depends on how it's cooked. It could be a great grain for recovery. And then if you're someone who's interested in keeping your muscle mass and you're not really into training قبل الفطار, I would train بعد الفطار within 2 or 3 hours. And then على السحور, which could be متأخر قوي أو الساعة 11. It depends على حد يومه ماشي ازاي. ممكن يتسحر حاجة that's also high in protein, because people think protein keeps your muscle mass. Protein repairs all the damaged tissues in your body, your hair, your skin, your brain. It's more than people think. People think protein is only for muscles. It's not.
It controls your hormones.
Yeah, it's also balances out your hormones.
So if you're somebody who trains after, then what would you have for iftar? Would you have a regular meal? No, just something light. Regular meal.
Regular.
Okay.
Yeah, وهفصل بس I would basically postpone التمرين بعد الفطار within 2.5 to 3 hours. I would definitely leave. I wouldn't eat until I'm 100% full. I'll probably get off with 80% full. and that really depends because people usually use that word 80% full, 100% full, 120% full, and they don't really understand the difference between them because it's all at the end of the day it's subjective. So to make it objective 80% full is لو قلت لك هبه احنا لسه مخلصين اكل حالا قلت لك هبه let's go for a walk and you said okay let's go وقمتي من مكانك قمنا اتمشينا that's probably 80% full. ولو قلت لك هبه let's go for a walk واحنا لسه مخلصين الاكل قلت لي لا just wait another 30 or 45 minutes كده ممكن اقوم اتمشى معاك that means you're 100% full. ولو قلت لك هبه يلا نقوم نتمشى بعد الاكل قلت لي لو حركت رجلي هرجع عليك that's probably
That's gluttony.
yeah that's probably 130% full. فلو حد عايز يتمرن بعد الفطار احسن له ان هو ياكل obviously to 80% full, obviously a meal full of protein, carbs, and a salad. I love starting off with a salad because it basically facilitates food to go through our digestive system اللي بقاله كتير قوي ما فيهوش حاجه جواه.
Okay.
I remember when I used to fast and I used to work out. Obviously, I used to always work out. I remember I used to break my fast on, oddly enough, soup and 3 dates.
And then you would go...
I would go work out almost immediately. Like within 30 minutes, I'm in the gym.
Yeah.
Then I would work out because I had enough energy to work out and I'm drinking water. And then I would come back home and eat.
But you miss حلاوة رمضان.
Yes, it's true.
Definitely, but لو ما كانش في عزايم or anything like that, it was, and it's just because we were never like, we barely sat, like if everybody's sitting on the table, I'll eat, I'll see you guys later, I go work out because I'm already dressed, I go work out.
We'd hang out without her, so it's fine. Like, Nir's gone, now we can talk freely. We can talk about her.
That's how it used to, but like when people are like, let's work out before Fatar, and that to me, it was like, I'm dehydrated, I'm cranky, I don't want to work out before Fatar. But you'll break your fast.
I used to work out before Fatar.
But then you're really like thirsty and you're really hungry, and then I always feel like you eat more.
I used to eat less because if working out and I'm like really exert a lot of effort, خلاص at the time of Iftar, I'm not going to just undo that by like stuffing my face.
And I was never...
So I was able to be more mindful. Can people lose weight like that during Ramadan?
Definitely. أنا بقى personally بعمل إيه؟ أنا بتمرن قبل الفطار. بتمرن قبل الفطار. I like to keep the window of eating for eating. And I don't like to waste some of the window إن أنا أكل فيه إن أنا أتمرن فيه. I really enjoy training fasted. Because I'm very experienced.
But you know, because you're a trainer, so you don't know if you start getting dizzy or whenever.
Yeah, exactly. I'll stop. Yeah. Also, whether you're someone who's experienced or not, if you do have experience in training or you're not, بتعمل physical effort ولا لأ, it's still not advisable إن حد يرفع الهارت ريت بتاعه above 160, 170 beats per minute وهو صايم بقاله 16 ساعة. I don't do any high intensity interval training قبل الفطار.
I don't.
Never. I could do weightlifting, rest for like 2-3 minutes, do another set, rest for like 2 or 3 minutes. I make sure, and that's the way we structure our workouts at Elevate as well. قبل الفطار, it's never high intensity. It's always mostly either slow, heavy resistance training with ample amount of rest in between sets, or it's low level activity cardio, or it's a mobility class where you're basically in your place. And you don't sweat as much. Yeah.
But like these high intensity, let's do on a box 500 times and
no. No.
It's not advisable basically.
No. At any kind of recreational activity لو حد بيتمرن أحسن له إن هو يتمرن بعد الفطار ويعمل أي recreational activity outdoors. I recommend that. خصوصا إن رمضان جاي في وقت حلو.
We're lucky.
الجو هيبقى حلو قبل الفطار. حاسس إن ممكن أي حد يروح يلعب بادل قبل الفطار، يروح يتمشى في النادي قبل الفطار. يعمل أي activity that's non-exercise activity.
Yeah.
Could be done قبل الفطار ويعمل تمرينه بعد الفطار. أو لو حتى someone who's tight on time عشان إحنا مثلا عندنا جزء من شغلنا كبير قوي بيكون في رمضان قبل الفطار على طول وبعد الفطار على طول. We're basically working when everyone else isn't. فبعد الفطار مش بيكون عندنا وقت قوي إن إحنا نتمرن because we're working. فعشان كده بتمرن قبل الفطار. And ورمضان اللي فات I was actually training at like 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. 4 hours قبل
And would you?
And I was fine.
I guess when you're like you said, if you're used to it, then it's okay. You can do it.
That's fine. Yeah, if you're used to it,
And you know what you're doing. You
Deb-
know how to see the signs.
Okay, like pivoting on that, like what trends do you find people get into so much and that you think is not such a good thing? Like, because we're talking about
What do you think
the
about
fourth.
fasting, actually?
That's exactly what I was going to say, because we're talking about Ramadan, about fasting. What do you think about this whole trend of intermittent fasting? And they say it's much better to work out when you're intermittent fasting. Yani, what are your and like are people in Egypt very much into the trends? And you find that you look at other
Very few
people.
Obviously, very few people are into. I think your audience would be the audience of this podcast would actually be interested in. Could be interested in intermittent fasting. So,
But not many people are.
not everyone is into intermittent.
You don't think so? Oh, I thought everybody. It seems like everybody's into it.
Well, the thing is, I'm anti-intermittent fasting.
You're always anti things, if you notice.
Everyone's always for it. I'm anti.
Everything everybody's for, she's anti it.
Yes, it's true actually. No, because I'm anti-fads and trends. On all honesty, because the intermittent fasting, it's a diet for people. They're not really intermittent fasting. You know what I'm saying? So when they finish it, so it's 16 hours, they eat like pigs, they drink like maniacs. It's like,
Yeah, but that's not the right way to do it.
so what I'm trying to tell you is,
But intermittent fasting.
most of the people here do it the wrong way.
Okay, so what do you think about these trends?
Okay. Intermittent fasting is definitely a trend. I know you're anti-intermittent fasting now. I think it's safe to say that I've been doing intermittent fasting for almost 4 or 5 years now. It's been working really, really well for me.
The times, what do you fast? Like, isn't there like 14? Like, it depends.
10 p.m. to 10 p.m. the day before to 2 p.m. the following.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
18 hours? 16 hours.
and I eat from 2 p.m. I eat from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Unless when I'm traveling, I actually like to do food hopping. So
So you don't intermittent fast.
I don't think the bus is
The left.
yeah. However, what we know about it in the literature is that while men can do intermittent fasting for long periods of time, meaning 6, 7, 8, 9 months of intermittent fasting without breaking it, although that's fine for men, it's proven not to be appears to be not very good for women, and I'll tell you why. First of all, when it comes to fasting is great because we were not meant to have food in abundance in the fridge. The human beings we were basically hunters and gatherers in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the reason why you stored fat was basically to go about days or hours so the camel stores water because
Yeah.
it usually lives in the desert. Human beings never had a fridge, so you basically store fats for the same reason. So when you fast, you give time for all of your gut system to get cleaned out. So that's one. Number two, there's something called, let's say, it's stem cells, which is a scientific term.
The mitochondria?
Let's not get into I don't want to make it very technical.
Yeah, make it
Or
simple.
for people to like really get it. It's mostly when you do intermittent fasting, you clean yourself up, and that's good. Number two, you avoid glucose going up and down most of your day, which is great because it's not about the sugar, it's about the glucose spikes. And also, when you do that, for men, apparently it increases their testosterone. For women, when women do intermittent fasting for more than a year or so, it ends up messing up with something called HPGA axis, which is hypothalamic gonadal axis.
Oh.
That affects their
Cortisol, that's right.
yeah, it affects their sexual hormones.
Okay.
So some women, when they do intermittent fasting, they have temporary menopause. That can actually happen. There's something called the female athlete triad, which is basically 3 things. And I actually do want to talk about this on the podcast because a lot of people shy away from talking about this topic. And it's actually very important, especially when it comes to health-conscious people or fitness enthusiasts. It's called the female athlete triad, which is basically having a low-calorie intake, doing vigorous exercise, and having a very low fat percentage. They end up having temporary menopause. I've seen girls 21, 22 years old have their menopause, have a complete menopause for about 3-4 years.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and intermittent fasting can cause the same thing for women who do intermittent fast, 16 to 18 hours religiously for more than a year, and sometimes end up with problems like that. So I'm pro intermittent fasting for men. It's fine for women as long as it's not overdone.
I know you're saying. I'll tell you, because I tried it for a while, and at some point I was not losing any weight. But I know now that my body is the type, if I put too much stress on it in any way, too little food, too much exercise, it kind of goes the other way. It like stores fat.
It's called metabolic gear down, because your body doesn't understand that you have food in the fridge, but you're choosing not to eat.
Yeah.
Your body thinks that food is scarce.
You're starving it. So
Yeah. Your body thinks that food is scarce, therefore I will preserve every ounce of fat that you have to make you survive.
Yeah.
Same thing happens with women when they go on a very restrictive diet and low calorie intake and prolonged times without eating and vigorous exercise and low fat percentage. Priority number 1 for the human body is to survive. Priority number 2 is to reproduce. So survival is number 1, reproduction is number 2. So when survival is at risk, reproduction is put on hold.
Yeah.
AKA most of the sexual hormones
There's
go out of balance.
There's a great book for this that I have that I got after I had discovered that. It's this doctor called Mindy Peltz, and her book is called Fast Like a Girl, because she says you can fast very rigorous. You can do aggressive intermittent fasting at certain periods of your cycle. You have to do it at a certain time. You can't do. She says women cannot fast like men, 18 hours on a regular basis. She's like, after that, some women will lose weight, but then it'll stall at some point. So she always says you have to change it up. And the first 10 days of your cycle is the days where you can actually be more like, you can intermittent fast. You can do a 24-hour fast if you want. But for days 10, 15, you have to fast much shorter time. And after day 20, you're not supposed to fast until you get your period. Basically, she talks about that and how it's very, very important.
This topic is very famous now, which is calories, which is menstrual cycle cycling. They call it
Exactly.
They call it that way. But also, research has shown that it really highly depends on the woman, and it depends on her lifestyle. It depends on so many things that you can't actually. So, just for reference and to make things a little bit easier. Women's menstrual cycle is divided into 4 phases. There is a luteal phase, there's a menstruation phase, there's a follicular phase.
Ovulation phase?
An ovulation phase. These are the 4 phases. And menstrual cycling, or that's... Okay.
That's okay.
Is usually when are you supposed to have high calorie intake? When are you supposed to increase your carb intake? When you're supposed to lower your carb intake? When are you supposed to increase your fat intake? At the end of the day, it really, really depends. I know this is going to frustrate people saying that, but it really depends on you. It really did not. So far, there isn't something in the literature or in research that says do this or do that when it comes to that, because it's still a very, let's say, how do we say it?
Infant stage. I mean,
Still new to us.
still, but it's also unknown. I mean, we're 3 sisters, and the 3 of us lose differently. We build muscle the same way, oddly enough, the 3 of us. But when it comes to losing weight, if I change one thing, I start losing weight.
Yeah.
Heba has a much harder time, and I always wondered why. But your body is completely different than mine, and I've done those when I was very overweight when I was younger. And I used to do those crash diets. My mom, of course, put me on all of those crazy diets. And I remember one time I remember looking at the thing, I'm like, oh my God, pasta has a lot less calories than meat. And so I ate pasta, I think, for 2 weeks. And I didn't go near meat. I was only 15, I think, at the time. I was quite young. And my period skipped 3 months.
Oof.
So until I read somewhere that protein controls your hormones.
Yeah.
So then I went on the protein thing immediately after, and I got it for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, I got it for 10 days. And then 2 weeks later, I got it for the right amount.
Man, because
of time.
there's
But
so
it's
many,
just-
there are so many fads that come out, and I know there was at one point it was just your calorie intake. Doesn't matter if you're eating Pringles, as long as you stick with it. At the time, but you know, at the time it was like I had a friend of mine who was like that. Would count every calorie, but it was Pringles. I was like, but she lost a ton of weight, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. But
people who go by the principle of whatever fits your macros.
yes,
I hate that term because it's not just food is not just calories.
Yeah.
It's a lot of food could be medicine, by the way.
yeah,
I believe food is medicine and medicine is drugs. So it's not about just the calories. It's mostly same thing with back to what you were saying when it comes to very high fat percentage. I'm talking about women who have more than 45% body fat and women who have less than 14% body fat. While some athletes, female athletes, are on 12% body fat and have their menstrual cycles extremely regular and perfectly fine. Some women, as soon as they get below 16% body fat, they start developing irregularity in their menstrual cycle. And same thing with over 45% body fat percentage. So it is mostly the body fat percentage. I don't think women were built to be shredded.
I hate that look, by the way. Not to like, I find like when I see these girls working out at the around the track, Benedi,
yeah. Some of them are so fit.
really, they're like, I'm just like, what happened to a woman looking like a woman and man looking like a man? It's like women are supposed to have curves, and all of a sudden you see these girls, they're like, even the way they're walking, I'm just like, all of a sudden they're walking like men. And they're like really muscular, and I see them working out with guys, and I'm just like, man, I don't, even though I used to work out like a maniac and weightlift like crazy until I got all these injuries, so on, then I had to stop. But like, I appreciate the female body. I think the female body is supposed to look beautiful and kind of feminine. And I find a lot of women are not looking so feminine anymore. There's a certain masculinity to them. And when you, from what I read, when you lift a lot of weights, your testosterone starts to go up, which is the male hormone. So all of a sudden you find these women, they have more muscles.
But men and women, men also have a little bit of the female hormone.
Yeah,
And women have a little bit of the male hormone. I get what you mean. When it comes to, I'm just talking from a health perspective. I don't think it's not to each his own. I don't mind women weightlifting or. I just think it's supposed to make sure that whatever they're doing, they can sustain doing it for a long period of time without having any health problems. That's really the metric.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that doesn't get measured, I will say that. Anything that doesn't get measured can never get better. So if they're really, really sleeping well, if they're really, really eating well, and by eating well, I mean high quality food, do whatever you want as long as it's not causing you any kind of problems. So if intermittent fasting is pausing your menstrual cycle, then probably you shouldn't do intermittent fasting. If for example, having matcha and doing Pilates is enough for you and to keep you healthy, then that's fine. I'm just not pro someone doing one type of physical activity and sticking to it and thinking that this is the best type of physical activity that you should do. So even if you're weightlifting, you shouldn't just weightlift. You should also do mobility training. You should also do maybe Pilates a day or two throughout the week. You should do some sort of cardio because it balances out your hormones and it's good for the brain. And it's good obviously for the inside fitness, your cardiovascular fitness.
So you wouldn't give one piece of, like, if somebody's a beginner and wants to be like get how state, or you wouldn't give like a general kind of, this is what you should do.
Whatever moves the needed for someone.
But what are the most important aspects of getting healthy and staying healthy?
Strength training.
So weightlifting.
Maintaining your muscles. So here's the thing about, obviously we age, and the reason why, and let's say not the mantra, but the slogan of Elevate is achieving health well. or
Yeah, because health is the new wealth.
that what?
Health is the new wealth.
Yeah,
Apparently.
it is the new one. That's why there are like gyms in London now for 25,000 sterlings a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yeah, because it is the new luxury.
Yeah.
To be health. Because everyone is so stressed, everyone is underslept, everyone is running about their day and not really giving much time to work on their health or slow down. If there's one piece of advice, it would be avoid losing muscles at all costs.
Yeah, for sure.
That's when Dad, our father, just did a hip replacement, and of course, yes, at a wonderful age of 79.
Wow.
Yeah. And he did.
How is he?
He did 2 knee replacements.
He's not doing great.
He's not doing great because my father was an avid. Okay, this is something that we both, Heather and I, both read recently as well. That my father was like a tennis fanatic. Like he used to play 4 or 5 hours of tennis a day.
Yeah.
2 hours before he went to work, 2 hours an hour and a half, 2 hours when you come back from work, every day of the week. And he had a bad knee, and then the other knee got bad until he couldn't walk anymore. He could barely walk, so he stopped. And then our father was super fit, and then he just ate like he was working out, like he was playing tennis 4 times a week, and then he started losing mad weight. And then he would always have this thing. He's like, I did my quota for a lifetime when I worked at Ozempic, and I told him, Dad, actually, it's more important to work out as strength training as you get older, because your body loses the muscle mass a lot faster daily.
Yeah.
And then when he got the hip thing, he's like, I read this. I'm like, Dad, go to the gym. Go to the gym and do light weights, but do any kind of weights.
Yeah.
And he's just really lazy, and he doesn't want to move. And then ever since his operation, it's like I'm at the gym every fucking day. Strength training 4 times a week, and the rest I'm doing cardio 7 days a week.
I think that's yeah. When you see your parents going through that, and your parents are actually older, right? Yeah. I feel especially that I'm an older parent because my kids are young. I had my kids older. I always have this complex and that shit. I have to stay and age well, and I get a phobia when I see people that are older and definitely don't age well. And I know that
because he is weak, his muscles are weak. That's exactly what happens.
This is what longevity means, obviously.
Exactly. What do you?
Independence.
Do you think that, let's say, for example, I just got diagnosed with this thing. I don't know. I had this like nagging pain here in my back. So finally, it was just mild. It's not like I can't figure out where it is a point. But the guy after a year tells me, you probably have a disc. Such shit. But I went to do an MRI.
You don't go through life without having a disc or two.
He said مش مشكلة يعني خفي ما تخفيش. I was like, okay. So I went. I don't have a disc apparently, but I have what's called degenerative disc disease, which sounds worse. I was kind of like, I was like, huh?
I once had a client that actually came to me and said, I have triple D. Do you know what triple D is?
Sounds like a disease. It isn't. It's triple D.
I'm sorry, 37. 80. I have a degenerative disc disease. Okay, okay, pause. Let's remove the word disease from it. Degeneration and the cushions between the bones of your spine. So if God wanted your spine to be stable all the time, it was probably going to look like a femur, but it's not. Yeah. It's a chain of, let's call it a necklace of bones. Mm-hmm. Okay, and between every bone and the following bone, there is a cushion. This cushion, after a while,
erodes.
As we age,
it erodes, but it gets smaller.
Exactly, it becomes smaller. It loses part of its.
But still in the water and yeah.
And you can actually fight that from happening.
Can you? How can you?
Yeah, I will tell you how. And also, one of the things.
Go to the gym and start working out again.
One of the things that speeds up the process of such a thing is glucose spikes. By the way, it affects and the way you eat and the way you move and
Really?
Yeah. So the thing about aging, if you really, really want to age, never lose muscle mass. Why? Because muscles, other than your skin, are the biggest organ in the human body. And في اللي هو لو تداعى يعني مش عارف اقولها ازاي بس اللي هو when you lose muscle mass everything else is downhill from there. You lose your function and independence. You don't you're not metabolizing sugar as you could be. You become less protein sensitive. You age a lot faster. There's actually a very recent study that correlates leg mass, muscle mass, to longevity, to how long you live. Because the more muscle mass you have in your lower body, the longer you live, because the more able you will be to carry yourself to see friends and family, which is going to prevent depression and separation and being isolated.
Yeah.
So every decade after 25, you lose about 2.5% of your metabolism. So let's say you're someone who's burning 2,000 calories a day at rest, not doing anything, which is your basal metabolic rate. That's usually a term, a BMR, which is a term most people are used to or familiar with. You lose about 2.5% from the age of 35 to the age of 65. Then why the hell do we get so fat as we grow old? It's not because you're burning less by 10%. It's because you also, not only that, but you also lose 5 pounds of lean muscle mass every decade after the age of 35 to the age of 65. So that's about 20 pounds of muscle mass. That's almost 9.8 kilograms of body weight, which could account for a 30 or 40% decline in your metabolism. This is actually why you gain weight when you grow older, because you lose muscle mass. Is it inevitable? Am I going to always lose muscle mass as I grow older? Yes, but it doesn't have to be 20 pounds between the age of 65 and the age of 25. You could, every decade, the total that you lose throughout 40 years could be limited to only 5 pounds of lean muscle mass that you lose.
Although I know this guy called Peter Diamandis or something like that. He co-wrote the book Life Force with Tony Robbins, and he's 65, but his kids are like in their early teens. But he had kids even older than me. Yes. But so I know, thank you for reminding me that. But anyways, so basically he says that he's been working really hard he's very fit, that he's working very hard to build muscle mass, and now he's just every day working out to maintain it.
Yeah.
So you can maintain it then.
Yeah, but because what you enter your 50s with is what you're going to carry on in your senior years with.
Okay. So how can I help this? How can I do the double?
Sure. Have you watched the documentary?
Brian Johnson, Don't Die?
No.
Okay.
There's a documentary about the blue zones around.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and one of the blue zones, what they found about the blue zones, which is basically people living above 100 years of age. One of them is Okinawa, which is the first blue zone they discovered in Japan. They have a very diverse range of food that they eat, and they're mostly farmers, so they move and work a lot. 67% of their intake is from sweet potatoes.
Yes, I know.
Of their daily intake, and from purple sweet potatoes, and 6% is from orange sweet potatoes. That accounts for 73% of their daily.
Okay, but
as sweet potatoes. Sardinia, on the other side, which is another blue zone in Italy, the city is all uphill and downhill. And what they found out there is that they had a lot of lower body muscle mass.
Okay, you know my theory is on those blue zones. My theory on those blue zones is because, there's the other extremists, like the people that are doing longevity hacks and biohacking and all of that, that actually are very different from the people in the blue zone. Like when I watched it, if I remember correctly, these are people that live in small villages. The social connection, family connection is very strong. They're not working out at the gym 24/7. They're not doing cold plunges. They are not vegan. They are just eating normal, regular foods that our grandparents used to eat.
They have very low stress levels.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. They're not working 9 to 12 every day. They're not working these crazy, it doesn't have that. I feel that it's definitely, these places seem to be much more relaxed, so they don't have that stress that we have, that we're running around all the time. They're connected to family. They're not so vain about how they look and what they look. Yeah, it felt like all these people just simple. They're having simple foods. And I think that's what it is, because when you see these biohackers that are doing these amazing things, like this guy, Brian Johnson, if you watch his documentary, Don't Die, he has 115 supplements a day. He's eating only vegan food, which I've tried it once, so from experience, it didn't work well with me. All these fads that people do that don't necessarily are they going to make you live longer? they might, maybe some people will, but are you really going to be enjoying your life? I watched his documentary. The one thing I noticed that was very weird, I felt so sorry for him. He lives completely on his own. He wakes up in the morning, he takes these supplements, he eats his vegan diet on his own. It's a lot of pressure. I feel like that not living your life too is like, do you really want to live
Four
like
things
that?
you need to do. If we want to sum this topic up to actually how to age gracefully,
Yes.
four things that should be done. One, manage your stress levels. I don't know how. I'm not a guru on that. But manage the lower stress levels you are, the healthier you will be, for sure. So that's one. Number two is, as much as you can, make sure that you're sleeping enough.
Yes.
And time in bed is different than time asleep.
Yeah.
Obviously, sleep is the causality. Lack of sleep could be the causality of dementia. It's of brain cancer. It's of so many things. So many bad stuff happen to you when you're sleep deprived. And sleep deprivation, by the way, has a definition, which is anything anywhere less than 7 hours of sleep. So number one is low stress levels. Number two is sleep really, really well. Number three is avoid glucose spikes, mostly added sugar or white sugar at all costs. Okay. Number four is don't lose muscle mass.
So exercise.
That would be it. You don't have to exercise. For example, the people of Sardinia, they don't exercise.
Exactly.
They're always moving their lower body, which is a big glucose sponge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Muscles.
Somebody was
Yeah.
telling me like now, like one of the healthiest workouts is the farmer's walk.
Yeah.
What is a farmer's walk?
Farmer's walk.
Where you're
you're holding. It's like if you're shopping.
You're holding kettlebells?
You're shopping. You have
Okay.
bags and you're holding them and you're walking with these heavy things. That's a farmer's walk. So it's usually the disc, the things you hold them and you walk. And what was the other one? Because a friend of mine, Hatem, he had a heart attack he's a year older than me. He had a heart attack, so if I'm 40, he had a heart attack at 42, I think. But his father died in a heart attack, so it's hereditary. But he started doing all of this, the cold plunge, the sauna, he started with the sauna first, and then the cold plunges more recently. But his doctor told him he had two arteries that were completely clogged, and if it wasn't because he was healthy and working out as much as he did, he would have died for sure. The doctor told him, because you work out, because your heart was pumping, it kept you alive. But now his heart is, the doctor's he's like, I don't know what you're doing, but your heart is in super condition, bravo, basically. But he's the one that always he rose now, but he's always the farmer's walk is very important. And hanging. How long you can hang for, right? Without doing a pull-up.
Then I'm dying tomorrow because I can only hang for 5 seconds.
But how long you can hang for also can pinpoint the longevity of your life. I don't know if this is, and there's another two exercises, but I forgot what the other two were.
I don't know about that, but what I actually know for sure is that sleep, sugar, avoiding sugar, sleeping really well, managing the stress, and again, not losing muscle mass because it's the biggest organ in your body. When you lose it, everything else falls apart.
Yeah.
So that's that when it comes to aging gracefully. Also, when it comes to biohacking, when people talk about cold plunges, intermittent fasting, coffee in the morning, all of these stuff, and training fasted, you shouldn't do all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be doing intermittent fasting, training fasted, doing cold plunges, and avoiding any caffeine intake or avoiding any sugar intake, and doing all the extremes at the same time.
Yeah.
I heard that cold plunges, first of all, I don't remember why though, but they said is not very good for women because I think it's a little bit like the intermittent fasting when you go for too long. A woman plunging into this ice cold bath is actually not good for her hormones and her organs or something. The second thing is they say cold plungers is like hardcore exercising. It's a big stressor. But they say the days that you're working out hard, you should not be doing cold plunges either. But it's either or. In that sense, I've heard.
For 7 years.
He does cold showers.
Safe shita, cold showers. there's one of my mentors is actually from Norway. One of the things he told me is, do you want to never get sick? I said yes. He said, eat well, sleep well, exercise regularly, and always take cold showers, whether it's winter or summer.
I should do that then.
9 years. I only got sick twice.
I get sick often. Well,
Cold shower. No, wait. In the summers in Egypt, there's no cold water. Even when you put it on cold water, it's like lukewarm.
no, but you can do
Handle it.
cold. I can do cold in the summer, but cold, I feel like it's like deadly, Annie. These cold, you're having the sick for
-1 outside. I was in Paris like 2 months ago. It was when we were there. It was -1. -1. I took a cold shower before going out.
When I used to swim for an hour and take a shower, it was so painful. Like in the winter, the water's really, really cold. The water's really, really warm. It was like, but I used to do that twice a week.
أنا اتعودت عليها علشان كنت بلعب بوبستي سباحة وأنا صغير، وبابايا كان صعقة في الجيش وكان صعقة. كان على طول بيقول لي اللي هو مفيش راجل بيخاف من المية الساقعة.
Sounds like that's dad. Yeah, father. We take cold showers every morning.
We've gone on for more than an hour, so I think we need to wrap it up, right? Okay. There were so many other things I wanted to ask you, but okay. But we ended on a good note. Any last words? Do you have any last words on Ozempic? Closing words. Do you know people that are
Ozempic?
It seems to be out of pharmacies these days, and like everybody's taking them.
Okay. Without getting into too much detail, my take on it is a 100% no.
Even if you're obese and like that's your best alternative?
No.
You're taking a drug that's for the people that are
I totally agree.
Their pancreas was
The only, and also, I also have a thing about keto diet, about Atkins diet, which was
Really?
originally Atkins diet.
Yeah.
the high protein, high fats.
Is it like the carnivore or is it different?
No, it's different.
Okay.
But mostly Atkins diet and keto diet, it's good for any male who's above. It's been proven to stimulate fat loss without causing so much health problems for males above 35% body fat and women above 45% body fat.
Okay.
Also obese, basically.
Yeah, but I'm 100% against Ozempic
Okay, yeah.
Against Ozempic.
Because
it crushes your nervous system.
Yeah.
So our central nervous system is the king of, it governs everything happening in our body. It crushes this. It's a shortcut to crush your nervous system for a while. Yes, it may give you the short-term results that you want at the cost of your nervous system. And your nervous, so the body has a king and a queen. The king is your nervous system and your queen is your digestive system. Anything that you do that messes with the king and the queen, you don't do.
Okay.
Okay.
Hear that, people?
Okay.
Ozempic, bad for you.
Don't take Ozempic. Go to Elevate Gym to work on your glutes. Anyways,
On your glutes.
on that note, thank you so much, Eid, for coming on the podcast. We will put in the links to Eid's gym and his personal account, and you can follow him. He has great advice, and he is one of the best trainers and coaches in Egypt.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
See you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in to Who Said What. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found a bit of laughter, a few lessons, or even a new perspective along the way. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes moments and to stay up to date on what's coming next.